Trump's barely back in office and already walking a fine line when it comes to freedom. This new $500 billion deal between Oracle and OpenAI might seem like a good thing, but it could be a Trojan horse when it comes to a surveillance state. Let's dive into it. The question for today is, how do we protect ourselves against government? Not just the left, not just the right. I'm talking government as a whole. As we've seen, when the new guy gets into power, he basically just undoes the next 4 years and sets the next 4 years up. We are in hyper political turmoil. This is going to be political volatility like we've never experienced over the next few cycles of these elections. One of the promises that Trump had coming into office was getting the government off our back. Less taxes, less business red tape, more freedom. And obviously, if you're a business owner, this sounds great. And if you're a large business owner, this sounds even better. But we've had some of these large business owners, these large, massive company tech CEOs come in and start kissing the ring. And it made me wonder, what does this mean for the long term? If we used to have this problem of these massive businesses kissing the left ring, and now we have these massive businesses kissing the right ring, I mean, personally, freedom sounds like we don't have to kiss the ring. Freedom sounds like we can just live. We can let the free market be the ring that we kiss. So
I did have dinner with Tim Cook. I had dinner with sort of almost all of them, and the rest are coming. And this is one of the big differences, I think, between, we were talking about it before, one of the big differences between the first term. In the first term, everybody was fighting me. In this term, everybody wants to be my friend. I don't know. My personality changed or something.
We're kind of seeing this shift right now where, again, we've got this free market kind of choosing which side of the aisle to look at. And we have the press, which is largely controlled by what seems to be like, I don't know, the deep state, or what seems to be like some political power that didn't or doesn't want Trump in the seat.
Jeff Bezos came, Bill Gates came, Mark Zuckerberg came. Many of them came numerous times. The bankers have all come. Everybody's coming.
Look at me. I'm the most popular guy in town. I think this is indicative of people understanding what's to come. And now, as a result of all of this pandering and everyone being his friend, we have Trump's latest deal, a $500 billion project called the Stargate project. And effectively, we have OpenAI kicking things off with $100 billion. We've seen Elon, of course, calling foul, saying, where are they getting the money? But you can assume there's probably some backdoor deals going on here. We can assume that OpenAI will have the funds. And it feels like OpenAI is maybe funding the project. We're seeing, anyways, the government contract OpenAI to kick things off with the Stargate project. The Stargate project is a new company which intends to invest $500 billion over the next 4 years building new AI infrastructure for OpenAI in the United States. Key distinction there, only for the United States. We will begin deploying $100 billion immediately. This infrastructure will secure American leadership in AI, create hundreds of thousands of American jobs, and generate massive economic benefit for the entire world. Not sure about that, if we're locking it up to America and then hiring American jobs, how the whole world benefits, but let's keep going. As part of Stargate, Oracle, NVIDIA, and OpenAI will closely collaborate to build and operate this computing system. Man, this sounds like corporatocracy at its finest. You guys remember we did an episode on corporatocracy. We're going to link it right here. I think if I'm not mirrored, then maybe it's right here, where we kind of went through the difference between corporatocracy and capitalism, and how the more that the free businesses, the more that the businesses, the big businesses, spend their money lobbying government, being friends with the president, it's kind of indicative of how, especially versus their marketing budget, it becomes indicative of how captured or how non-free market the economy is. When there are four massive players, basically, probably getting guaranteed contracts here, colluding and collaborating together. This doesn't feel like a win for the 400 million people that could be entrepreneurs that want to build an AI startup. This feels like massive organizations getting very, very close to the money spigot in this incredibly centralized economy that we have, and then getting more. So with all this and my head currently spinning, trying to figure out what this means for my freedom here in Canada, but your freedom in the United States, let's dive into what the Stargate project actually looks like.
One of the most exciting things we're working on, using the tools that Sam and Masa are providing, is a cancer vaccine. It's very interesting. It turns out, I'll be quick, all of our cancers, cancer tumors, little fragments of those tumors float around in your blood. So you can do early cancer detection. If you can do using AI, you can do early cancer detection with a blood test. And using AI to look at the blood test, you can find the cancers that are actually seriously threatening the person. So we can, again, cancer diagnosis using AI has the promise of just being a simple blood test. Then beyond that, once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again using AI, in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Okay, first and foremost, I think if this is a real thing, this sounds absolutely game-changing. This sounds like life promotion. This sounds like life extension. This sounds like something that is very good. However, you and I need to be skeptical of the incentives here. When this stuff is state-funded, when this stuff is state-mandated, when this stuff is led in a closed room by people that have in the past not had our best interests at heart, we're skeptical, and I think rightfully so we're skeptical. Here we've got the Stargate project sounds like the stuff of dystopian nightmares. A US government-announced partnership of mega corporations to protect the national security of Americans and its allies, and harness AGI for the benefit of all humanity. We also have, we need ribeyes, not mRNA. Preach louder for the people in the back. Use AI to roll out global regenerative farming on micro and macro levels in every locality. You solve cancer and about 50 other problems. Guys, the government is good at making solutions, not solving the problem. We are constantly symptoming, band-aiding. We never ever take it down to a first principle and say, what's the problem here? People aren't getting exercise, we're not eating good, and we don't have enough sunlight. These are the basics of what's going on. We live in a world of seed oils, microplastics, and garbage floating around in our body, and we wonder why cancer is at an all-time high. Developing some unnatural solution is potentially going to help a lot of people. Let's say it does help a lot of people. It won't fix the problem. We need, especially if, as a government, we have to spend, trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars over the next couple, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years into decades, whatever it might be. We need to understand what the implications of Band-Aid solutions are going to be for society. The downstream effects of broken money are broken solutions. This is just, once again, a broken solution. Now let's look at what Larry Ellison, CEO at Oracle, part of the Project Stargate Alliance, we'll call it. Let's look at some history on him and see kind of where he's come from and what his views are in the past.
See, Larry Ellison is straight up CIA. He founded the original Oracle as a CIA project back in the 70s.
Now, for those that don't know, and I hope that all of you do, CIA is the USA spy organization to spy on foreigners. But, as we all know, Edward Snowden exposed them for spying on also their citizens. Just for some context here.
Which he later shut down before opening Oracle, the corporation, which is totally not a CIA front company, despite the fact that they've been funded by the CIA their entire time. Larry Ellison has always been a huge proponent of a government surveillance state. He was exceptionally vocal right after 9/11. He has for decades wanted a national security database combined with biometrics, thumbprints, handprints, iris scans, or whatever is best to detect people with false identities.
This is so scary. Imagine having a central, forget the government surveillance stuff. Forget the government, trying to position you or just take you out from that you believe to be wrong and they believe to be right. The implications of just this centralized database with government, incompetent government employees actually having access to that data it just petrifies me.
I.e. to surveil the American people at all times. And Oracle's already doing that. Oracle is the databasing software that backends basically every website that you use. You don't even know it, but Oracle interfaces with everything, and they have all of your data, your bank account, your checking balance, your savings balance, all Oracle databases, airline reservations, what books you buy, everything you do on the internet is basically already in Oracle's database. And what this plan is applying insane amounts of money to build enormous server farms to make the biggest AI the world has ever seen so that they can unleash that AI into our human data set, into this new fake world they're building. And what better person could you collaborate with than Sam Altman, whose company OpenAI just openly murdered a whistleblower named Suchir Balaji in front of the whole world, and we all know it, and it's super obvious. The crime scene is filled with evidence that this was not a suicide. His apartment was ransacked. He had a meal out on his table. He went into the bathroom and then proceeded to struggle against himself and leave blood everywhere, clearly showing that he was the only one there and that it was just a normal suicide, despite him having a thumb drive, which is now missing, filled with evidence that OpenAI's entire business model is probably illegal.
I'm not super familiar with this, but this is not surprising me anymore. It is so sad. Like 10 years ago, I would have heard that and thought, okay, I don't believe this. I'm going to attack this with skepticism. But after 10 years of my skepticism being proved correct, it's hard to hear stuff where the government had misintent, the government had malintent against citizens, or more importantly, citizens were looking to expose the government and they disappeared. It's harder and harder and harder to look at this stuff with skepticism when the data and the history shows us that this stuff actually happens.
This is not good. And everyone who's been paying attention knew that this was coming. The main threat during a Trump administration has always been the technocratic billionaire class getting into Trump's corner and then lobbying him and getting him to do the whole pre-crime, the whole digital surveillance, medical kind of like genetic engineering, science, technology, like this one world government technocratic rule. That has always been the next boss. And we know this. Some of the most valid and loud criticism that I've gotten over the last several months has been from like the Whitney Webb, Derek Bros corner. And they're totally correct that Trump has some seriously sketchy ties to tech oligarchs and to transhumanists like Sam Altman, Larry Ellison, like Peter Thiel. And while yes, I am very glad that Trump won, and I am so much happier to be doing my job and trying to hold the government to account in a Trump environment than in a Kamalanism environment, but I just didn't think we'd have to start on day 2.
He raises a good point. It is very concerning that on day 2, I mean, hey, free Ross day 1, and then on day 2, we have massive new vaccine AI coming to you, courtesy of the taxpayers, coming to you from the fingertips as a brainchild of a CIA water boy. This is not the way that I wanted the next free America to start. Here we have people have the right to choose what they put into their own bodies, even if that means taking poison. As messed up as that might sound, it's their right. As long as the warning label is clear, honest, and transparent about what the substance is, and they still choose to take it, I believe they should be allowed. Sure, allow them to do it. That's fine. Don't spend the taxpayer money to build it. Moreover, let's think about the downstream effects here, right? What this looks like is insurance companies, other massive organizations paying massive amounts of inflated funds to these private businesses who took on debt and or got money from the taxpayer rather than creating new things. We have this starting from a massive deficit without going to the root cause. I am hoping in a Bitcoinized world for a future where we are actually incentivized to look at things from a first principle, because that will be the most profitable. Because you and I, as human beings, flock towards the root cause, flock towards the actual problem being solved, not just some Band-Aid because some insurance company is going to pay for it. Where did the founding fathers decide that we were going to spend print money Devalue citizens' efforts. Devalue private citizens' work, private citizens' value, the private citizens' savings. Where does it say that we should devalue that to build something that probably makes people sicker? Now look, I don't have all the answers here, and I'm also on this journey. I am a private citizen living in Canada who enjoys traveling to the USA. I am heavily incentivized as a fellow freedom maximalist to look at and understand tools to keep us sovereign. Personally, what I do, I try to always follow you guys have been watching this show for long enough to understand, I always try to investigate the first principles, have an open mind, and understand where the incentives are getting misaligned here. Look at things with skepticism. Understand how you get out of your NPC role and actually engage in understanding how to fight this stuff. Personally, I found tremendous value in finding a freedom community, finding 4 or 5 people who align with me, sharing my values with them, understanding what their values are. Again, having this community, iron sharpens iron. Find a meetup in your local area, whether it be a Bitcoin meetup or a freedom-focused meetup. Use social media that can't be censored. This is called Noster. Understanding what protocol-driven services how they can aid and abet your life, rather than a platform-driven service that you can just be shut off. Obviously, we're talking about Bitcoin, having Bitcoin in self-custody over Bitcoin ETFs sitting in who knows whose hand under who knows whose control. At the end of the day, we have to, in everything we do, look all the way back and think, was this my original thought? Yes or no? If not, do I agree with that person in their first principle approach to making that thought? And then with your information, with your money, with your voice, understand who can turn you off. Nobody can tape your mouth shut in real life. If someone can tape your digital mouth shut, you have to reevaluate what we're doing. We are entering into an age which has seen more tyranny, more opportunities for collaboration amongst the bad people, and more opportunities for you to be censored than ever before. Stay diligent, my friends. Understand how we can escape, how we can fight back, and how we can continue to lead this peaceful revolution of the Bitcoin promise. Stay sovereign.